and welcome to Thorough Newspaper Analysis, which is brought to you by LawSikho. So today we'll be discussing the two articles, one from the Hindu and the other from the Indian Express. So from the Hindu, we have reinforcing RBI's accountability. So in this article, we will be discussing as to what is the key role or the key objective of having the Reserve Bank of India and how much can it be held accountable for not being able to control the inflation and what actually do we mean by inflation. And secondly, we have Malabar Navy exercise purpose participants from the Indian Express, which discusses that as we know that recently Australia has also joined in the Malabar naval exercise, and it is going to be a great step for India. And so, what are the perks of having this Malabar naval exercise, and what are the other naval exercise that India is a part of? We'll be discussing in this article. And finally, we have the news and flash column, wherein we'll be discussing the small and crisp news points that are more important for a prelims exam. So before that, if you're also preparing for judicial services exam, you can definitely have a look at the LawSikho course that we have for you. So we have the Lord of the courses, which is the judiciary test prep course. The link is there in the description box. You can check it out. And from the landing page, you can download free study material for your own preparation. So this is the multiple choice question for the day. Priyanka Radhakrishnan became the first ever Indian origin minister in which of the following country? This is a very recent news that has come up just today. So your options are first, New Zealand, second, Oman, third, Sudan, or fourth, Russia. You can jot down the correct answer in the comment section below. So here is the descriptive question for the day. Discuss why expansion of Malabar exercise to include Australia is important for India. So once we are done with today's article on this, we'll be definitely having a clearer idea onto this question. So with this, let's start with the first article, which talks about the Reserve Bank of India's accountability, that are the inflation targets. So in the last 3 quarters, now before we begin a deeper discussion about this article today, we need to understand the basic meanings of these very terms that will be repeated many a times while we are discussing this article today. So firstly, when we talk about quarters, so as we know that we have a financial year, which does not really start from January and ends in December like a normal year does, but a financial year starts from 1st of April and ends at 31st of March. So basically, that is the time from where the financial year starts, and then the period of 12 months is divided into 4 quarters, and every quarter is for 3 months. So that is 3 into 4 quarters will be totally equal to 12 months. So basically, the very purpose of dividing the entire financial year into 4 quarters is simply to understand the changing systems of changing economic, rates or inflation rates or anything for better comparison. And that is why these quarters are divided. So wherever we'll be referring to these quarters, now you have an idea as to which quarter are we discussing about. And the second term, which obviously we'll be discussing at length in today's article, is inflation. Basically, inflation is in a very simple language, if we try to understand it, it is a huge amount of money chasing less number of goods, which means that the availability of any particular product or service or good in the market is less, and people are ready to pay more for that particular product. That is the very reason why the price of that particular product or service actually rises to a very huge extent, and that is why we think that everything is very it's very costly or very expensive in the market. Just like we can take an example of, like, for example, petroleum. So if in a situation India is able to import, for example, let's take a very practical example for this matter. Just take for example that there is some kind of turmoil, some civil war, or any kind of aggression going on in the petroleum producing countries, like for example Iraq, Iran, or Saudi Arabia, or all these countries from where India imports the petroleum products. Now, due to this reason, the very factories or the wells, or all the entire setup of the industry over there that was producing, that was actually refining the oil and everything, it is not able to function. So ultimately, now we know that the petroleum or the petrol products are not being produced at the very rate as they used to be. So here, the supply is less. But obviously, if we talk about India, in a normal situation, please do not consider the situation of lockdown or anything. Like in a normal economy, wherever like we were functioning like a normal open economy, we needed the same amount of petroleum products, petrol and diesel and other byproducts for our own consumption. Now, in such a scenario, the demand is more, but obviously, due to the crisis in the producing country, the supply is less. Now, in such a situation, because you, I, and everybody would want petrol, so we who obviously who can afford it would be willing to pay a price higher even if they have to, and would want to, that they get the access to petrol. Now, this is a situation which leads to inflation. Similar is the case when it happens with onion prices as well. Like, for example, very recently, the monsoon that has, it did not retreat or it did not return back at the prescribed date and the time period. And that is why it has ruined a huge produce of onion in the state of Karnataka, due to which there has been a shortage of onion. For example, 100 kgs of onion had to be given by state of Karnataka, which would have sufficed the needs of all the people in the country. But obviously, due to these rains, the entire crop has been spoiled in Karnataka, and there is a shortfall of, let's say, 50 to 60 kg of onions from the state, which were expected to be 100 kgs earlier. In such a scenario, again, the supply has shrunk and it has minimized, whereas the demand remains normal. So, in this situation, again, the prices of this particular good that we are talking about, the onion, have risen. So, this is the very simple idea what we talk about inflation, that is, more amount of money chasing less number of goods. So I hope the idea of inflation is clear for you all today. So now the whole article will be very easy for you to understand. And this inflation, now we know, is the main target of Reserve Bank of India. Now we know that Reserve Bank of India, as we see it, it seems like, it is obviously the central bank for India. It participates on behalf of India into various, world or international economic transactions. Like we have the Bank for International Settlements, so RBI obviously is a member on behalf of India. And then we see it as the bank of the banks as well. If any other bank, like for example say SBI, PNB, or any other bank faces crisis, it can go and look out for loans from RBI. But apart from all these functions that we see coming on the table of RBI, the most important function of the Reserve Bank of India is to control inflation. And please keep in mind that it is not the truth that if at all we do not have inflation, so it will be an ideal situation. No, some amount of inflation is necessary for keeping the value of the goods and services. If everything becomes very cheap, then it will actually deteriorate the very end value or the market value of that particular good or service. And that is why the role of RBI is to maintain the level of inflation to 4 plus minus 2. So this is the very thing. It says that the ideal would be that 4% of inflation can be there. It can be plus 2 plus 4, that is 2 plus 4, that is 6%, or 4 minus 2, that is 2%. So the very percentage of inflation that is going on in the country is ideal to be that it stays between 2% to 6%, and it may fluctuate within between all these two ends. But now it says that in the last 3 quarters, the average inflation has not only exceeded the target, which we were discussing, that 4 plus minus 2, which was set in August 2016, but has also persisted above the upper tolerance limit, which is of 6%. So in January, it was for like in the first 3 quarters, for the January to March quarter, it was 6.7%, April to June 6.6%, and July to September 6.9%. So we can clearly see that where the Reserve Bank of India had to maintain the inflation to a maximum of 6%, in the last 3 consecutive quarters, it has exceeded the upper limit as well. So now we need to understand that what is the RBI required to do when inflation target is not met. So basically, RBI sends a report to the center stating, so all these things have been added after the 2016 amendment to the RBI Act. So in that particular report, the RBI needs to state the reasons for its failure, that why was it not able to maintain the inflation target. Secondly, remedial actions it proposes to initiate, that now what would it be doing next to bring down or whatever, or bring up whatever the reason being the for the fluctuation in the RBI in the inflation limits. And finally, estimated time to achieve the target. So whatever the proposals or the steps that it would be initiating, or it would be proposing to initiate, so it would also provide as to how much time would it need to bring effects to these initiatives. So basically, this all steps were done aimed at enhancing the transparency and accountability coming from the side of Reserve Bank of India. So the justification, now let's see that what Reserve Bank has said in its justification, that why was it not able to maintain the inflation targets in the first 3 quarters of this financial year. So it said that the data limits were normal data collection. There were data limits. It said that normal data collection exercise by the National Statistical Office was disrupted during the lockdown, and thus because the data was not being able to collected was not collected in a proper and in a synchronized manner. So thus we are seeing such discrepancy in the calculation of the inflation targets as well. And also the publication of COP for April to May was suspended. So these are the reasons which Reserve Bank of India has given. But if we consider intricately, then none of these reasons is something that can be justified on the part of Reserve Bank of India, because the inflation data for the past 4 quarters appears continuous. So you can see that if even at this time there was nothing like COVID-19 that was there, but still it was very close to the upper limit of the inflation target. And it is not a basis for exempting Reserve Bank of India from the requirement of sending a report. It would still have to send a report, and the range around inflation target is there to accommodate constraints and challenges like data limitations, errors, etc. And it is said that the very purpose of giving this entire range to the Reserve Bank of India, that is a 4 plus minus 2, that is the very purpose of providing this range, that if at all if there are any discrepancies or any constraints or challenges like data limitations or errors, so still the inflation can be put or accommodated within this range. But it has gone beyond this range, and the very exemption that was provided was only from the value of 2 to 6% only, and not above or below that. Now let's see what are the ways forward to this. The RBI should be allowed to state the policy support needed to meet the inflation targets. So it should be given complete freedom to come up with these things, and to state what policy support, as in what legislative support does it need to meet these targets for the inflation. And the central government should reinforce the monetary policy committee framework and enable transparency in decision making. As we know that monetary policy committee is the functional body of Reserve Bank of India, which actually meets regularly and decides upon the steps to be taken to control the inflation. And that is why it is very desirable that the central government should give more power to the monetary policy committee. And any kind of vacancies, as we recently discussed, that there was huge turmoil going on because the meeting also of the MPC was postponed because there were a lot of vacancies, but finally they were filled and meeting was held. But so such discrepancies should be avoided totally. And it should be made sure that the monetary policy committee has all the means to exercise a better planning for the control of inflation. So this was all for this article. Let's discuss the second article for the day, which talks about Malabar naval exercise. So we have discussed many times about it, so we'll go about it in very brief. So as we know that the phase 1 of Malabar exercise began off at Vishakhapatnam coast with Australian Navy's participation for the first time since 2007. So we have discussed it that this time after 2007, it would be for the first time that the Australian Navy will be participating in the Malabar naval exercise. The only thing that we need to understand here to the best is that what actually is the Malabar exercise. So basically, it is the multilateral naval exercise. The name itself suggests that multilateral means that many nations participate into it. Like there are 4 nations now: Japan, US, Australia, Singapore. So they keep on changing, but this year we have India, US, Japan, and we have Australia. Just the same members as we have for the Quad as well. So it started in 1992 as a bilateral exercise between India and US, but then in 2007, India, Japan, US, Australia, and Singapore they all participated into it. But after 2007, Australia withdrew and joined again this year. And since 2015, Japan has been formally joined in the Malabar naval exercise. And then in 2019, it was held off coast of Japan. And in 2020 exercise, there will be 2 phases. One will be in the off coast Vishakhapatnam, that is on the eastern side of the Indian peninsula, and the other will be in the Arabian Sea, which is on the western side of the Indian peninsula. So this time they're keeping in mind that they are doing a no contact at sea format, keeping in mind the COVID-19. And for the first time, all four Quad members will participate into it, as we just discussed: Japan, India, US, and Australia. Now let's see that why is Australia's participation important. So the defense cooperation between India and Australia is intended to see, here is India, and over here will be the Malabar exercise, the first phase of the Malabar naval exercise. So here is India, here is Japan, then obviously we know on this side we have the US, and here, like if when we are done with all these island countries over here, so here somewhere we'll be having Australia. All right, so basically since we know that through Quad as well and through other Indo-Pacific associations, we are trying to bring Indo-Pacific region at peace, and we are trying to ensure that there is every country is given a good and reasonable chance to make trade and other kinds of things through the Indo-Pacific region safely, without the unwanted intrusion of any country. So in that scenario, the Australian and Indian association, or the collaboration of the defense cooperation, will uphold rules-based international order. So obviously it will create a very rules-based and peaceful international system, at least in the Indo-Pacific region, and respect the rule of law and freedom of navigation in the international seas, because we know that this one, the South China Sea, on which China has, through its nine dash line and various other attempts that it is trying to make, it is every now and then it tries to increase its influence in the South China Sea. And it is a very, very important route if, at all, if you want to move through this area, or any country from here wants to move towards India or the western part of the world, South China Sea is a very important resource for that matter. And so it will make sure that when India and Australia would be guarding this entire area from both the sides, like from the west as well as the east, so it will make sure that there is freedom of navigation in the international seas for all the countries. And it would uphold territorial integrity and sovereignty of all the states, obviously. Then participation of all four large navies is a key instrument of deterrence to China, as we just discussed, like India, US, Japan, and Australia, just like in being the members of Quad, and also being members of the other Indo-Pacific Association that are being discussed very extensively. So the collaboration amongst these four superpowers in the Indo-Pacific region will definitely help to deter any kind of unwarranted or unwanted intrusion from the side of China. And as India is currently facing standoff in the eastern Ladakh, so it will be showing India's power as well. Then Chinese dominance in the East China Sea and Indian Ocean region as well. And we have just discussed, so this is the South China Sea, this is the East China Sea. So both the areas, south and east, both the seas, China tries to develop its own control, but that would also be deterred when all these four superpowers of the Indo-Pacific come together. So let's see that what are the other naval exercises that India participates into. So India participates into the PASEX, which we have discussed many a times, which is the passage exercise with Japan, then with Australia as well, that is the Royal Australian Navy, and the US, as we know that very recently USS Nimitz had participated along with Indian INS naval ships in the PASEX exercise. So this was all for the long articles for the day. So we have for news in flash today: Indian origin New Zealand's new minister. Priyanka Radhakrishnan became the first ever Indian origin minister in New Zealand. So now you have your answer. After Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern inducted 5 new ministers into her executive. So about Priyanka, she was born in Chennai and did schooling in Singapore and further educated from New Zealand. In 2017, she was elected as the first member of parliament, like from the Indian origin. And 2019, she was appointed the parliamentary private secretary to the Minister of Ethnic Communities, and then served as Minister for Diversity, Inclusion, and Ethnic Communities. You don't really need to recall each of this detail, but just her name, and as to which country now she's representing as a minister over there, you need to know. So this was all for today. We hope it was a good session for you. Thank you so much for staying tuned with Law Seekho.